Welcome, fellow freaks, geeks, and nostalgic peeps, to my channel, Slime and Slashers, where, yeah, we talk about everything from Nickelodeon slime to horror movie slashers, but plenty of stuff in between, including books. And today is not just any old book-themed video. No. Today is a very special book video. Today is the second annual Kelsi's Choice Awards. It is a book award ceremony in which I will give out awards. Are they real awards? No! Are they fake awards? Yeah, but they're still awesome and I'm still excited. Essentially, think of a reading survey where you talk about your best, funniest read, most heartfelt read, most emotional, zaniest read, etc., etc. It's kind of like that, but the difference is it has nominees for each category, and then out of those nominees, all of them could potentially win because they all fit the category. I enjoyed them all. But only one book can come out on top, and only one book can be dubbed the Kelsi's Choice Award winner. Like the Kids' Choice Awards, this is my little spoof. Kids' Choice Awards, they have these little blimps. I'm thinking about a Kelsi Corn, like it's a little candy corn for me, because I love candy corn, and I'm corny as a person, so I thought I could give an honorary fake candy corn award to each book, and I thought that would be quite appropriate. All right, that is enough. Let's go to the short intro, and when we come back, we will be all elegant and ready for the awards. Hello and welcome. I am your host for tonight, Kelsi. Yes, let's get into the awards without further ado. Our first category, Zaniest Book. This award goes to the book that is the weirdest, the wackiest, the strangest, aka the zaniest. Yes, that is why this award category is called that. The nominees for this award are Rites of Extinction by Matt Serafini, Book of the Damned by D.A. Fowler, The Breeze Horror, The Uninvited by William W. Johnstone, Mud Ballad, Paradise Club by Tim Meyer, and Return of the Living Elves by Brian Assman. And the winner is Book of the Damned by D.A. Fowler. My friend Crystal said she had an idea of what book I would choose for the Zaniest Award, and it really could have been no other book, although every book nominated for each category could definitely win because I enjoyed all of these books. Most of these books are 4-star, 4.5-star, 5-star reads. So any of the books nominated, the reason they're nominated is because I believe they could easily win in one way, shape, or form in each category. However, there is only one book that can win. I truly think this is the zaniest book out of all of those other zany books that I named, because this book, does it feature a penis used as a lightsaber / laser? Yes. Does it feature freaking weird creatures and people getting excreted out? Yes, it's very weird. I can't even say how weird it is because you just have to read it for yourself and find out. Essentially, the very loose premise of this book, the Book of the Damned, whoever reads it, essentially gets sucked into the happenings in Book of the Damned in their own lives. So it's like they're living the story of Book of the Damned. So it's like a book within a book, which I freaking love. So yeah, highly recommend. Great paperback from hell read. Wacky, that's why it won the zaniest, but also bleak at times, so be aware. Also, very extreme sometimes, lots of violence. It's got it all, I think, so totally recommend. I think most of you, if you like paperbacks from hell, would enjoy this one. The next category is for the most unique read of the year. This is different than zany, because zany is more weird, strange. Unique is more different. And it's still appealing. It just doesn't mean that it's wacky necessarily. It just means it's a different type of read, aka a unique read. The nominees are I'm Thinking of Ending Things, Last House on Needless Street, The Library at Mount Char, Night in the Lonesome October, and finally, Magic Lies and Deadly Pies. All of these books are great. Our nominees are wonderful, I gotta say. I recommend them all. They all have something unique about each one of them. However, there is a clear winner for me. And that winner is The Library at Mount Char. And this book is definitely out of my comfort zone. I think it's a strange book, and it's also a very unique book, hence why it won. I feel like this won't be for everybody, but if you like a little bit of fantasy, if you like a little bit of magical realism, I feel like you could appreciate this book. It's got some humor in it. Essentially, it's almost like we're following these gods who can manipulate the universe. I can't go into the plot because it's kind of convoluted and hard to understand in just a sentence or two. It did take me a little while to get into this book. However, by the end, I was really invested, sucked in, and I had a good time with this. It was definitely a memorable read, and for sure, very unique. Now, the next award is for the grossest book I read in 2022. The nominees are, dun dun dun, Cows, Exquisite Corpse, Book of the Damned, and finally, Slugs. Each one of these nominees, I gotta say, they're gross, they're sick, they're twisted. But the hands down grossest book I read in 2022 was Cows. Cows. Basically, I've got one word for you. Shit. I hate to be crass, but there is a lot of shit in the book, and I do mean literally. And it's gross. So that's why it wins the Gross Award. Lots of gross stuff in Slugs, just to kind of go over the other nominees. We've got slugs coming out of private parts. We don't want slugs in the private parts. We got worms coming out of brains in Slugs. We don't want that either. Book of the Damned, as I said, laser penises. Yeah, those exist in that book. Also, freaking spider shit, it's in the book. And Exquisite Corpse. Cannibalism. Sex with dead bodies. Yeah, it's in the book. But Cows beats them all. Cows is really gross, I gotta say, and it deserves the award for sure. The next award will be presented to the book that I read in 2022 that was the most extreme. The nominees are Clown Flesh, Exquisite Corpse, The Summer I Died, and Off Season. The winner is Exquisite Corpse. Yeah, Crystal. I know this made your top favorites of the year. Exquisite Corpse, of course, by Poppy Z. Bright. I don't have a physical copy. However, I did really enjoy this read. Is it for everyone? No. Hence why it won the most extreme award. It has some really harrowing scenes in this book. We're talking about, as I mentioned, in my little teaser when I was talking about the grossest book, Exquisite Corpse does have cannibalism. It does have two different guys having sex with dead bodies, but it goes past that. There's a lot of violence, there's a lot of blood, there's just a lot of disturbing, extreme things. And I would say it's a tough read, but it's got something more to it. It does take a look at the AIDS crisis during the time that this is set in, the book is set in. And by the way, part of it is set in my hometown, New Orleans, so I kind of like that too. And that makes it a little bit unique, at least for me, because I like to see those local references. A very, very good read that I do recommend to readers who can handle extreme horror. The next award will go to the book that I read in 2022 that was the Bloodiest and the Goriest. So this is the award for the Bloodiest and Goriest book. I don't want you guys to get confused because our award before this was for the most extreme. Yes, you can have buckets of blood, and that could make a book extreme. However, I feel like extreme is more than just blood. Whereas this category, we're mainly focusing on body horror, on blood, on like mutilation and gory stuff. So the books that are nominated here are just, bloody as hell. So first off, our first nominee, The Troop, by Nick Cutter, of course. Then we have Clown Flesh, which was also a nominee for the most extreme category. Next nominee for Bloodiest is Pillow Face, which was a nice, fun slasher book, kind of written in a Richard Lehman-esque style. And finally, we have a classic book by Jack Ketchum, and that would be Off Season. We're talking about tons and tons of blood, another book featuring cannibalism, much like Exquisite Corpse, but to a whole other level. Do body parts get ripped off? Possibly? Maybe. You'll have to read it and see. But yeah, it definitely deserves to be on this list of nominees. The winner for Bloodiest and Goriest book goes to Clown Flesh. This book is very, very awesome. A great winter read if you're a seasonal reader, by the way. This is by Tim Curran, and it was my first book I read by Tim Curran. And look at this fantastic cover, by the way. Yeah, these clowns look menacing, but in the book, when you get into the book, they freaking cause some chaos, they wreak havoc, they shed a lot of blood, and also other liquids that are gross, hence why this is the bloodiest and goriest, and just, it's really nasty. There's lots of liquids going on in this book, like stinky liquids, like gooey liquids, and yeah, they make a lot of people die and bleed in this book, and more. So I think this is a really fun little book that, if you love clown reads, I would say this one's underrated, and I don't hear anyone else talking about it. So check it out if you like bloody books and fast, interesting, good times. If you have read Dead White by Alan Ryan and have been disappointed, fear not. There is a book with almost the exact same premise. A Snowden town gets invaded by clowns. That's the premise of Dead White. That is also the premise of Clown Flesh, but it is done better, more action right from the get-go. And yeah, it's a good time if you can handle the blood. So check it out if you dare. The next award is for the book that had the best imagery. Imagery, you know, when you're reading, you can just picture the descriptions, whether that be a gruesome and horrific description or a nice description of like a meadow or field. But because I read mostly horror, we're gonna find some kind of dark imagery here that has been nominated. The nominees for best imagery are Clown Flesh, Stolen Tongues, Harvest Home, and Toady. And the winner is Toady by Mark Morris, a truly underrated book, in my opinion. A paperback from hell that is not, you know, widely lauded or widely talked about, and that is a flippin' shame, I gotta say. Toady follows a group of boys, and they are trying to fight a mysterious evil in the town that is kind of awoken by one of the characters named Toady. And essentially, we've got a coming-of-age story, but it is much more than that. And the imagery in this book is some of the best horror imagery I have ever read. Some of the descriptions of the eerie happenings are incredible. You feel like you're there. Also, by the way, another tidbit, the setting for this is wonderful. We've got a beach setting, and it's cold. I think it's awesome to find a coming-of-age horror book that is not really set in summer, it is set in winter. And it's not just any kind of winter setting, it is a winter seaside setting, which I think is very unique. And you could also feel the cold in this book, too. So I very much enjoyed this. Next award will be presented to the book that I read in 2022 that I deem the most emotional. The nominees are Brother, The Midnight Club, The Girl Next Door, Thor, Boy's Life. Honestly, all of these books made me tear up and or cry. Some of them I was bawling, others it was a little trickle, but I did cry while reading all of these nominees. However, there is one book that is easily the winner because I cried buckets and buckets of tears while reading The Midnight Club, which is the official winner of the most emotional award, because this was so sad. Do not go in thinking The Midnight Club by Christopher Pike is a horror book. It is not. This is more of an emotional story. These kids gather around, they're at a hospice, they gather at midnight and tell spooky stories, and the stories are to comfort each other. It kind of reminds me of Are You Afraid of the Dark in a way because of the gathering and the telling of the stories and the bonding of the teens here who are going through terrible terminal diseases. And the ending is just so sad, but also comforting in a way. And this touched me very personally because my uncle was diagnosed in January of 2022 with terminal cancer. And so reading this after he passed away, just a few months after he was diagnosed, really helped me come to grips with everything, with how someone could have this diagnosis and then quickly be gone. And so that is why this book really touched me. It had a personal meaning to me. That was such a tough time. And thank you again to anyone who reached out or donated to his GoFundMe back in 2022. That means so much. I can't even tell you. But this book, be warned, it will wreck you. And I do think it's very respectable in the terms of it doesn't really force religion down your throat. There is religious elements featured in here. However, I really think it's about acceptance. It's about hope. And I just think it's a beautiful book Don't go into it thinking it's really horror, because then you might not like it at all, and this book deserves better than being disliked because it's miscategorized or anything. But yes, definitely deserving of the most emotional award, for sure. The next award is for a character, not just a book. This is specifically going to go to a character. So which character will come out victorious? So this is for Creepiest Character. Our nominees are Annie from Misery, Elizabeth from the novel Elizabeth, Faye, while she's sleeping specifically, from Stolen Tongues, and finally the last nominee, the Patient, from The Patient. Very self-explanatory there. Yes, the Patient in The Patient is very, very off-putting, very eerie. He's got an aura about him. He's got a mystery surrounding him, and everyone in the beginning of the book is scared to go anywhere near this patient's room. Faye, while she's sleeping from Stolen Tongues, says some messed up, crazy shit, I gotta say. Elizabeth, she is a very off-putting character. This book, the way Ken Greenhall writes Elizabeth, she just comes off like a psychopath, and you really get into her head, and you don't even know what to believe or what to think about what she is thinking. And finally, Annie, we all know she's a psycho from Misery. She is obsessive. She will not quit until she gets her new Misery book from Paul Sheldon. The character that wins the Creepiest Character Award will be Elizabeth. And by the way, I did not pull the book, but I do have the book up here. So let me just show you really fast. Sorry, it might glare because it's in plastic. Here's an old school copy of the book, Elizabeth. This is Elizabeth. She has a lot of interactions with her mirror. She is really strange. She is really creepy. You do not want to meet Elizabeth. She's got weird goings on with her uncle. She's got weird relationships, or had weird relationships with her parents. A very strange girl, but I could not stop reading about her, and that is why she's not only creepy, but intriguing, and that is why I think you should check out this book if you do like Paperbacks from Hell. Now for the award for the scariest / creepiest book. Not character, but full-on book this time. The nominees are The Patient, Stolen Tongues, Toady, and finally, Ghost Story. All of these are quite creepy. Ghost Story, very spooky atmosphere, gets really creepy, especially in the last 150 pages. Toady is creepy throughout. Stolen Tongues definitely starts creepy parts that pop up here and there. And The Patient, like I said when we were talking about the nominees for Creepiest Character, The Patient in The Patient is quite creepy and off-putting, and the whole time you're wondering what is going on. I think the book that actually gave me goosebumps at one point, the only book I can think of that's done that actually, is Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell. And look at this fantastic, marvelous cover. Very creepy in itself. So I think this holds up to people's expectations of it being a scary book. Is it a perfect book? No. Does it have problems? Yes. It's repetitive. Is it a little insensitive to some of its representation? I think possibly yes. I, however, did enjoy it for its creep factor. Again, there were some times where I actually got goosebumps and was freaked out and paused while reading and was like, whoa. Especially the very beginning hits you with a bang. The beginning really opens up with a punch. Some people love this book. Some people really dislike it because of some of the problems I mentioned. However, I'm one of the people who could toss aside those criticisms because I kind of read a lot of books that have some criticisms, but I can still see some of the pros. This was not a perfect read. It was not a 5-star. It was more of like a 4.5 star. However, was it creepy despite its flaws? Yes, and that is why it deserves to win this award. Now it's time to present the award to the book that had the best atmosphere that I read in 2022. Our nominees: Geek Love, Carnival, Toady, Ghost Story, and finally, Krampus. All these books have wonderful atmosphere in one way, shape, or form for one reason or another. The winner, though, I gotta give, I kind of teased earlier, Toady. It has a great winter atmosphere. It's got a great spooky atmosphere throughout the whole thing. So the atmosphere coupled with the imagery was one of the reasons why I enjoyed this read so much back when I read it. It was a buddy read, by the way, with my friend Alex, the Bookubus. Check out her channel. It was a buddy read all the way back in the month of July. I still think about this book sometimes. I still remember it, and I would love to reread this at some point. And now, let's present the award for Best Characterization. The nominees are Brother, Geek Love, Harvest Home, and The Auctioneer. All of these books have fantastic characters. The characters are so well fleshed out, so well written. I truly recommend all of these books if you love a character-driven story, because these books all have wonderful characters. However, there is only one winner, and that winner is Geek Love. I love this book, Geek Love, because it has the best characters, and they are so messed up. They are so flawed. They are so interesting. They are so strange. They are so different. So this book follows a carnival family who are trying to keep their traveling carnival afloat. And so the mother and father, the head of the family, they decide to start breeding their own freaks by taking different drugs and this and that. And it just gets even more twisted from there. Is it a slow burn of sorts? Yes. You do spend a lot of time getting to know these characters, but there's plenty of messed up weird shit that happens all throughout this book. Is it pure horror? I would say no. I would say this really leans more towards literary fiction, and I do think it isn't for everyone. However, if you love a good carnival-themed book, this one does spend a lot of time following this family as they are a part of their carnival, literally traveling around the entire country. And there's this one character, Ollie, who I freaking love. I still think about her, and I was so sad when the book ended because I couldn't spend any more time with her. I really loved Ollie. She was my very, very favorite character, a very lovable character, even despite her flaws, and maybe even because of her flaws. And she definitely had a big, big heart, and so I thought that was like one of the best parts about her character, but you could see that too, and how much she loved her family, but also struggled with other things happening in the family dynamics with her family. So yeah, this very multifaceted book in general, but the characters are what you want to read this for, I think. Very interesting, wonderful book. I can't say enough good things about it. I truly, truly enjoyed it, and I still remember it, even though I read it all the way back in February of 2022. I do not laugh often when it comes to reading books. However, there have been a few books back in 2022 that did make me chuckle and giggle and sometimes all out belly laugh. So let's go through the nominees for the book that was the funniest read in 2022. The nominees are Just Like Magic, which took me by surprise, by the way, Tastes Like Candy, Clowns vs. Spiders, and finally, one of the last books I read of 2022, Return of the Living Elves. All of these books I highly recommend if you do enjoy horror with a dose of humor, because all of these books have that. They're all funny in different kind of ways. Some are funny in absurdist ways, others are funny in, actually the majority of them are funny in absurdist ways. One is funny in a more realistic way, but all of them are funny in my opinion. But the winner, I gotta give it to my boy Jeff Strand for his book, Clowns vs. Spiders. I've been talking about this book for months, and that is for a very good reason. It is so much fun. If you happen to have read in December Return of the Living Elves, this is kind of like that in tone, in terms of the type of humor is very absurd, very out there, very, I don't know, I guess over the top in a way, but I love that. I think that kind of works for this book because, you know, when you think of the title, Clowns vs. Spiders, you kind of think of like a cheesy horror action movie, and that is kind of how this reads, with some funny, you know, weird characters who just say strange things, and our characters in this are so fun and so funny. It's basically clowns, and they're written like they are like living as clowns, so we kind of have to suspend our disbelief a little bit. It's almost like we're reading a movie, if that makes sense. We're reading about these clowns and their life. It's not people playing clowns, it's clowns. And they want to respect the clown code. And I don't really have to tell you what it's about. The title kind of says it all. It's Clowns versus Spiders. We do have a big standoff between the clowns and the spiders, and it's a lot of fun, and it's zany. And I say, if you don't mind that in your books, check this out. We have two categories which will focus on book covers. This first one is specifically focusing on vintage book covers. And the nominees are, first up, Chain Letter by Ruby Jean Jensen. Moonbane by Al Sarantonio. Look how absurd this cover is. Of course it has to be nominated. The Cartoonist by Sean Costello. Look at this font color. Look at this evil guy painting some cartoons with this dripping paintbrush and that skull on the bookshelf behind him. Heck yeah. And here it might look like a haunted window curtain, but I think it's cool. This is The Breeze Horror. Is it about window curtains? No, it's about zombies, bitch, but it's still fun, and the cover, regardless of what the book is about, is badass. But I did enjoy the book, by the way. Now, let's announce our winner. Let me check the envelope. The envelope says, The Cartoonist! Yes! Congratulations, yes! I don't know why I'm bowing to it. I did this last year. When will you learn, host Kelsi? I don't know why I'm even referring to myself in third person. Maybe because I'm trying to be fancy with my fancy dress. My award ceremony dress. Attire. Whatever. Anyway, no. This is The Cartoonist, and the reason why it wins is because I think it's more of my personal preference. Most people, I bet, would have chosen Chain Letter by Ruby Jean Jensen with a freaking skeleton delivering a bloody postcard. However, I just like the simplicity of this, but it's very Paperbacks from Hell. I mean, the creepy dude, the dripping paintbrush, the colors, and I'm partial to old school animation, so something about this cover screams something awesome to me, and I don't know what it is exactly. I just like it, and that's all I really know for sure. And that is why I awarded The Cartoonist the Best Vintage Cover Award. Next up, we've got the second category about book covers, and this one is the Best Book Cover for a Newer Horror Book. The nominees are Krampus by Brom, Clown Flesh, Taste Like Candy, Stolen Tongues. This was so difficult. Taste Like Candy, yes, it has a killer cover. Freaking cotton candy skull. Yes, how can you beat it? I don't even know. I mean, it's marvelous, fantastic. Also Clown Flesh, all those creepy clowns. It looks like a freaking awesome painting of some kind. Stolen Tongues with the creepy creature on the cover. I mean, that is a beautiful cover, but also at the same time very unsettling. And Krampus by Brom. I mean, Brom freaking does his own artwork. It's pretty freaking incredible. Only one of these books can win. The cover has to be the best, in my opinion, to win. So who comes out on top? Well, it's Krampus. I love, love, love this cover, as I love all of the covers of all of the different nominees that I just talked about. However, I think it's extra special that the author also did the artwork and the cover illustration. I just think it's fantastic. Here we see the non-colored version on the inside. Very amazing. Sorry about my ring light. Very awesome. I freaking enjoyed this book so much, and the cover really kind of sets a great tone when you start to read it. So, yes, yes, yes. The next award we'll be giving out is for the book in 2022 that was the most unexpected. Our nominees are Cujo. I did not expect to like this book, hence why this is nominated here. I did wind up liking it a lot and giving it 5 stars. Just Like Magic. I had never read romance before. This was my first pure romance read, and I also loved it, much like Cujo. In Every Generation, this is a Buffy-inspired story, but it is a new story. We've got some old characters from the TV show featured in this book, but we also have some new characters introduced. I did not think I would enjoy as much as I did, and I freaking loved it because it paid homage respectfully to the Buffy the Vampire Slayer universe. Next up, Boy's Life. Of course, this book I go in thinking it'll be a very good coming-of-age story, but I didn't expect it to wind up being my favorite book of all time. So I didn't know I would go into the book and discover a new favorite of all freaking time. And our final nominee, Teen Killers Club, which was the first book of 2 books I read from the same series, and that one surprised me because I didn't think I would like a freaking YA type of romancy book. It's really more focused on like the thriller aspects of this mystery and this girl trying to find out who killed her best friend and trying to prove her innocence because she was blamed, but she did not do it. So she gets sent to this camp with other teens who are accused of being killers or are killers, and stuff develops from there. We do have a kind of love triangle develop at one point. I did not think I would love this book. However, the author did ask if I wanted to read it, and she said it is got a style of Christopher Pike. So it's got this vintage YA type of style, and I totally saw that when I was reading the book. All right, all these books are fantastic. I do recommend each one of them because I wouldn't necessarily just pick them up, but I enjoyed all of them for different reasons. But what will win the most unexpected award and like the book that was the biggest surprise. The winner is Just Like Magic. I can't believe I liked a romance book. It made me cry, it made me laugh. I had such a good time. I read it in basically one night. 5 stars, 5 stars. Definitely the most unexpected 5-star read I had in 2022 for sure. I didn't think I'd like it. I have a whole vlog where I am flabbergasted about how much I like it. Check it out. I will link it below if you happen to have missed it. It's basically titled something like Horror Reader Reads Romance for the First Time. The thumbnail says, can a horror reader be converted to a romance reader? So I had a great time documenting my experience with that, and I'm so glad I enjoyed it instead of, hated it or something, because I thought I might actually wind up not enjoying it, but I did, so it was a great surprise. Now, our next award is all about the vintagey, awesome, old school books. So we're talking Paperbacks from Hell. This is the award for the best Paperback from Hell read. Our nominees: The Breeze Horror, which is the zombie book I referenced a few categories back. Next, The Book of the Damned. Very weird, but an awesome read, as I said earlier. The Keepsake by Paul Husson. I've not talked about this yet, but this is about an cursed Irish stone, which is more than just a mere rock. It is pretty evil and sinister. And is it alive? Next up, The Auctioneer by Joan Sampson. This one is a super slow burn, but the tension builds and builds and builds, and boy, is it effective. And final nominee for favorite Paperback from Hell read is Wet Bones by John Shirley. My first John Shirley read, and it was gory, it was gruesome, it was graphic, it was weird. It was so unique as well. And the winner for favorite Paperback from Hell read goes to dun, 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 Book of the Damned, our second repeat winner. Toady won 2 awards already tonight. Book of the Damned has now won 2 awards. Will any books win 3 awards? I don't know. Book of the Damned. Wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing here. Anyway, yes, congratulations, Book of the Damned. Yay! So worth it, so awesome. But all of these Paperback from Hell reads that I just mentioned who are nominated, I do very much recommend if you're into Paperbacks from Hell at all. Now we come to most unique paperback. Paperback. What the frick? Anyway, redoing that. And now we will talk about the category that is the most unique Paperback from Hell read. Let's see what book will win this award. The nominees: The Keepsake by Paul Husson, which I just mentioned when I was talking about favorites. Book of the Damned, yet again, nominated for multiple times for multiple different awards. Will Book of the Damned take away another award? Next up, Moonbane. Of course, this one's very unique and weird and strange because we're following freaking werewolves, and do they come from space? Yes, they do come from space. And finally, Black Cat. Black Cat is much more than just your typical flippin' animal attack story. There's some weird stuff going on in this story, and that is why I enjoyed it. But only one of these Paperbacks from Hell can be dubbed the most unique, and that book is The Keepsake by Paul Husson. Again, we've got a killer Irish stone that legit comes to life. I think that's pretty damn unique and weird, and that is why this wins. And I really enjoyed it. I don't think everyone would enjoy it as much as me, because there's not action on every single page, but we do have action in the beginning, and we've got it sprinkled throughout. There is some domestic stuff that it explores with the husband and wife. Well, at one point they're girlfriend and boyfriend. But yeah, when the stone appears, it definitely, it knocks you out. I was going to say something about freaking it rolls you over with its creepiness, but that was too dumb. I don't want to get into it. Anyway, congratulations, The Keepsake. Don't ask me why I keep doing this for the second year in a row, bowing to the books, but I think it's fun. I will bow or curtsy or whatever to the books. Next award will be presented to the book that I read in 2022 that had the best kills. Let's see what the nominees are. The Amulet, Clown Flesh, and Taste Like Candy. All of these have really amazing kills. Taste Like Candy, you've got kills happening at a Halloween-themed carnival. Clown Flesh, you got clowns doing crazy things to people. It's pretty brutal, as I said earlier. And The Amulet, some of the most unique, craziest kills I've ever seen. Very strange kills, for sure. And the winner is The Amulet by Michael McDowell, because you got pigs killing people, yeah. That's not all the kills, but also you got freaking beauty parlor kills. Yes, it's weird. There's so many great kills in this book. It had to win. It hands down had the most creative type of kills that I read throughout all of 2022. Again, Tastes Like Candy was very damn close, but it had to go to The Amulet. So congratulations, The Amulet. Yay. The next award will go to the book that I read in 2022 that I think is either the best written or the most eloquently written. So here we go, the nominees. And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie, Geek Love by Katherine Dunn, and finally Boy's Life by Robert McCammon. All of these books are really, really well written. Love them all for the writing and for other elements featured in the stories as well. However, there can only be one winner, and if you know me, you might know the winner. The winner is Boy's Life. It's Boy's Life. Look at the tabs. Look at the insane amount of tabs. It's incredible. I should have picked out a passage for you to prove to you why this deserves to win for best writing. And here is a great quote to show you what I mean. This is my opinion. We all start out knowing magic. We are born with whirlwinds, forest fires, and comets inside of us. We are born able to sing to birds and read the clouds and see our destiny in grains of sand. But then we get the magic educated out of our souls. We get it churched out, spanked out, washed out, and combed out. We get put on the straight and narrow and told to be responsible, told to act our age, told to grow up, for God's sake. And you know why we were told that? Because the people doing the telling were afraid of our wildness and youth, and because the magic we knew made them ashamed and sad of what they'd allowed to wither inside themselves. After you go so far away from it, though, you can't really get it back. You can have seconds of it, just seconds of knowing and remembering. When people get weepy at movies, it's because in that dark theater, the golden pool of magic is touched, just briefly. Then they come out into the hard sun of logic and reason again, and it dries up, and they're left feeling a little heart-sad and not knowing why. When a song stirs a memory, when motes of dust turning in a shaft of light takes your attention from the world, when you listen to a train passing on a track at night in the distance and wonder where it might be going, you step beyond who you are and where you are. For the briefest of instants, you have stepped into the magic realm. That's what I believe. Now, for a very fun and lovable award. This award goes to the book that I read in 2022 that had the most lovable animal character. The nominees are Snuff from the book A Night in the Lonesome October, Thor from the book Thor, a wonderful, cute, sweet German shepherd. Oh, you feel for Thor, you love Thor, you get inside Thor's brain, and you're able to kind of get a glimpse into what he's thinking. Also, the cat from The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward. That cat was awesome. That cat was friendly. That cat was helpful. And last but not least, Cujo, before the rabies, okay? Not Cujo after the rabies. In the book, which is a little bit different from the movie, we do get the perspective of Cujo, so we get to actually see how much of a good boy he truly was before that damn bat bit him and gave him rabies. He was so sweet. It's so sad. Cujo, no. It's very sad. The winner is Thor. Thor is such a good boy. I can't even tell you how good of a boy he is. He is a marvelous boy. He's so good. Thor, he helps his family. He cares about his family. And the ending just rips your heart out because he thinks he did something wrong, but he didn't. Thor, I love you, Thor. If you have not read the book Thor by Wayne Smith, I highly recommend it. There might be some things that could be triggering to people, so do look up trigger warnings if you are worried, especially if you're sensitive to things regarding animals. But this book was so heartfelt. It was action-packed at the same time. I very much enjoyed it. But yes, Thor is a great character all around, and I thoroughly enjoyed reading from his perspective, and he was so lovable and cute. The next award goes to the book that I read in 2022 that was the most thrilling and suspenseful. The nominees are Autumn Bleeds into Winter, Stolen Tongues, and The Troop. The winner of the Kelsi's Choice Award, the Candy Corn, the Kelsi Corn Award, whatever you want to call it, goes to Autumn Bleeds into Winter by Jeff Strand. This book took me by surprise. I really, really enjoyed it. I don't think everyone would think it's the most thrilling or suspenseful book they've ever read. However, it got me out of a slump. It was fast. It was compelling. I love the characters. I love coming of age, so I'm kind of biased and partial to that type of story. So it worked for me. It had some humor even with all the tension. So I really think all of these nominees are great and suspenseful and very thrilling, but I think the most thrilling for me at the time when I needed it was Autumn Bleeds into Winter. Next category is most shocking. So which book was the most shocking book I read in 2022? The nominees are The Cellar, The Summer I Died, The Wasp Factory, and Then There Were None. Now, of course, all of these are shocking in one way, shape, or form. Specifically, The Cellar is kind of shocking because finding out what the book's really about is like, what? That's so weird. Anyway, so that's kind of shocking in a different way, but it still deserves to be here and be among these other nominees because it's shocking nonetheless. All right, but the winner. Let's see who the winner is. Is it The Cellar or is it another? The winner is Wasp Factory. I gotta say, the ending of this shocked me. Crystal, she's at Fiber Artsy. Her and I buddy read this together. I still don't know what really happened or why. I mean, I know what happened, but why? And, like, I'm saying, I don't know what happened as in, like, what the hell happened, metaphorically. Like, I don't understand why. I don't understand what happened. I don't get it. My mind was blown. Ugh. This book will not be for everybody. I do think the shocking part was wild. I don't think it would work for everybody either. I'm not even sure how I feel about the shocking reveal. Anyway, I do think it's worth reading. It is kind of considered a classic, and actually, my friend Ollie over the channel Criminale told me that this is actually taught in school overseas. Not here, not in America. It is not taught. This would never be taught in school. If you read it and know the shocking part I'm talking about, you'd know why it would never be taught. It'd be too controversial. There'd be parents up in arms for sure. But anyway, most shocking, I can't even say why, but this is it. I still am kind of flabbergasted and being like, why? I don't understand. Like, what is the point? I don't know. But anyway, it was a good read. I did enjoy it very much, and I had a great time buddy reading with my friend Crystal. Next, we've got Best Audiobook. This, I think, is the craziest and tightest category because there are so many wonderful nominees here. This will be the hardest for me to grant an award to. So here we have our nominees for Best Audiobook. Pet Sematary. This was narrated by Michael C. Hall, so of course it has to make the nominee list. Fantastic Land had so many different narrators, it was incredible. And now, 2 books written by Robert McCammon, both with incredible audiobooks. Ball by Robert McCammon, and Usher's Passing by Robert McCammon. There's something about McCammon's books, he always has really great narrators for his books. So if you think about diving into Robert McCammon, I don't think you can go wrong with any of the audiobooks for his books. Next nominee is Krampus, a marvelous audiobook. The Krampus voice in this audiobook is fantastic. It sounds demonish at one point, it sounds fun and loving at another point. Just very well done. I love the voice for Santa as well. The narrator did a fantastic job with all the different characters and all the voices. Next up, The Langoliers, which was narrated by Willem Dafoe, which was hilarious to see Willem Dafoe, I say see, but hear Willem Dafoe narrate like a whiny teenage young adult woman. I'm not saying like, just making that judgment about the character, he was kind of, like, voicing her in a whiny voice. It's not just me saying she's whiny. He's like, meh, meh, like, the way he narrated her. It was wonderful. It was marvelous. It added to the book. I didn't think The Langoliers would make a best of nominees list, but hey, here it is, nominated for Best Audiobook. And finally, A Christmas Carol, narrated by the one, the only, Tim Curry, bitch. And this is an impossible category. I don't even know how to choose one, honestly. I mean, Tim Curry, how can you go wrong? Come on, I don't know! Is this gonna kill me to make this decision and to give out this award to just one of the audiobooks? I think it will kill me. So I think I have to give the award to dun, 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 Pet Sematary, because it was one of the first times I realized how much I could really truly love an audiobook. If I was looking at all of the audiobooks in a row, I really think they're almost all equal. They all have great narration, and they're all wonderful for different reasons, and they all have something unique about them, and they're all worth listening to. So if you're thinking of reading any of these books and you like listening to audio, you can't go wrong with using the audio for any of these. However, like I said, Pet Sematary, my reasoning is because it was the first time I realized how much you could really enjoy and love and be obsessed about the narration of a book. Like, it could give a whole nother element to the book itself. It could add depth to the story. Michael C. Hall, the way he performed the book was just superb really immaculate, honestly. The only flaw with the audiobook is there's some peaking of the audio near the end. That is not Michael C. Hall's fault. That is the mixing. It didn't take away. I just wanted to mention that in case people are like, she gave this the best audiobook award, and it's not perfect, technically. But the performance is pretty much perfect in my opinion. But I honestly say all of these nominees, it was so hard to choose. I love all of these audiobooks, truly. Next up, we've got a fun category. Let's give out an award for the best animal attack book. So here we have the nominees. The Rats, a classic. Bats, Slugs, The Uninvited, which is about killer cockroaches, Black Cat, and Cujo. All of these were a lot of fun. Some were better than others. Cough, cough, The Uninvited was pretty bad, but also kind of good in a so bad it's good type of way. But I gotta give Cujo the edge. So Cujo is our winner. Woo, Cujo! It was wonderful getting to read from Cujo's perspective, getting to know more about the family. It surprised me how much I love this book. It's more than just a mere normal animal attack book. There's more emotion, there's more character development to it, there's more to the story. And you do feel for Cujo in the story, so it's not like a mindless animal attack. Usually animal attack, it's kind of for fun. It's supposed to be more of like a trashy read where you're just going along for the ride. Cujo is deeper than that, and that's why I love it. Next category, Best Slasher. Here are the nominees. Creepy Project. Very unique, short little slasher that I was able to read and was given an arc from the author. Thank you so much. Next, Bonesaw. Tastes Like Candy. And finally, Clown in a Cornfield. And the winner will surprise no one. The winner is Tastes Like Candy. Of course I had to give this the Best Slasher award because I talked about it the whole freaking year after I read it. It is underrated. It is awesome. I did see someone just leave a comment on one of my YouTube videos reviewing this book that they gave it a 2.5 out of 5 because they didn't really like it. They thought there was too many characters. I think the characters are the strength of this book. So we do have a slower burn type of flippin' slasher with this book. We do take time to get to know the characters in the beginning. However, once they get into the carnival, the action goes hard. And the comedy goes hard because the girls who go into this carnival and who end up getting picked off, they are high. And that kind of lends to some funny scenarios, and that's what I liked about it. But the reason it's the best slasher because it really has a little bit of everything. It's got a great setting, it's got great fleshed out characters that you actually give a shit about. It's got freaking awesome kills, some of the best kills I read. It didn't win for best kills, but it was up there. It was really close, and that's why it was nominated in that category. But yeah, it had to win for best slasher because I am so glad I read this, and I will promote this book forever. I'm sorry, you guys are probably sick of hearing me talk about this book back in 2022, but I will continue to mention this book when it is applicable and appropriate. So get used to it. Next is a category that is kind of negative. Here we're going to give an award out for the book that made me the angriest. So what books are nominated here? The Summer I Died. The antagonist is so hateable. That is why it makes you angry. You really loathe the antagonist in that book. And sometimes you actually loathe one of the protagonists who's kind of a gross guy and he talks a little bit gross, but you come to love him and you really just end up hating the antagonist in the end. Alright, the next nominee is Thor. There's one part with the dad in the book that will make you quite angry, and if you have read it, you will know what I mean. So that made me pretty angry while reading. And finally, The Girl Next Door. You will loathe the antagonist from The Girl Next Door. You will be appalled. You will despise the antagonist. And also, I gotta say antagonist, because there is an adult at the helm kind of egging on these kids to torture this girl and her sister, but, you know, not only is the adult at fault, the kids partake in the torture. So, I think you come to hate the kids as well, or at least most of them, if not almost all of them. The winner, I don't think it's very surprising, Jack Ketchum's The Girl Next Door. I don't even have much else to say besides what I just said. Just hateable. Makes you angry, makes you sad, makes you depressed. Is it worth reading? If you can handle this type of thing, yes. There is a bigger message to it. There is a bigger examination about, you know, guilt, about what people are responsible for when they're under the influence of an adult. It's also kind of an an examination of a certain time period in the history of our country. This is based on a true story, so I don't recommend this lightly. I don't just recommend it to anybody. I actually read this with my book club, and I can't believe we talked about this book, like, in a book club chat, but I'm glad I had other people for support while reading this so I could talk about it with other people, because I think it would have been even more angry if I had to hold all that in, like, all the experience of reading this book, hold it inwards, and not be able to get it out. So thank goodness I read it with others, because it actually kind of helped to get that anger out. Next category is Best Setting. So which books are nominated? Here we go. House of Illusions by Ruby Jean Jensen, Fantastic Land, Geek Love, Harvest Home, and finally, Mina and the Undead. This is tough because I recommend all of these books if you like a good setting, a fleshed out setting. House of Illusions, overall, the book wasn't a very highly rated book for me. It was like a mid-level 3.5. However, the carnival setting was so well done, you could almost smell the popcorn, you know, while you're walking around the carnival. That's how fleshed out the setting was. So if you like settings, and especially if you like carnival settings, you might want to pick up House of Illusions. It's not a bad read. It's just not the best read. It could be better. Fantastic Land, kind of the same thing. Not the best read in my opinion, but the amusement park setting is pretty great. Geek Love, another carnival setting that is wonderful, fleshed out, really well done. Harvest Home, we got a small town setting. You feel like you know the town. Backwards and forwards, you feel like you're a part of the town. The town is a wonderful setting. And Mina and the Undead, it is set in New Orleans. I am biased, but the author, who's not even from New Orleans, captured it greatly. And the winner is Mina and the Undead, written by Amy McCall, who actually has a YouTube channel. I will link her channel below. I think this was fantastic. The reason this wins, all of these books had great settings, all the books that were nominated. Wonderful, wonderful settings overall. However, as I kind of teased, Amy McCall is not from New Orleans. She's like freaking over in the UK. And yet she nailed New Orleans to a T. She has visited here in New Orleans, but as a local, I was so impressed about how she captured the freaking setting of New Orleans, the smells of the street, and just the places and the vibe of the city. She did a fantastic job, and that is why this wins for Best Setting. Also, by the way, she captured the decade she wrote this in very well, too. She set this in the 90s. She didn't write it in the 90s. She set it in the 90s, and it's fantastic. So you got the 90s vibe, you got the freaking New Orleans setting, and it goes hand to hand together so well. Great job, Amy. That is why I'm giving your book the award for Best Setting. Next up, the Best YA Book. All right, our nominees, Mina and the Undead, The Babysitter by R.L. Stine, and Teen Killers Club. I really enjoyed all of these YA reads. Two of them are newer books. The Babysitter is an old school book, of course, from the 90s, written by R.L. Stine. And the winner is Teen Killers Club. I was so kindly given this book by Lily Sparks, the author, for review. I did not expect to like it. I kind of procrastinated reading it, to be honest with you. I read it when her second book came out and she sent it to me, Teen Killers in Love, and I read this first because I wanted to read and review, as I promised, the second book that had just come out. So I read them in the same month, and I loved both of them. So for that reason, because it surprised me, because it blew me away, Teen Killers Club wins for the best YA book that I read in 2022. Fantastic, good time. Not for everybody, but if you like thriller with a hint of romance, if you don't mind romance, then I think you'd like this. The mystery kept me turning the pages, and after I finished this one, I quickly devoured the second one right after finishing this one. So yes, awesome. Best newer kids book. This is non-vintage, so no nominees will be vintage books. They will all be newer horror books. Basically, books published within the last 10 or so years. All right, the nominees are Tommy and the Order of Cosmic Champions, Don't Call at All by Robbie Miles, The Time Watchers by Robbie Miles, and finally, Carnival by J.H. Reynolds. I recommend all of these books if you enjoy reading middle grade reads because all of these were fantastic for different reasons. And I do recommend them all. But the winner is Monster Street Carnival. So this is one book, part of the Monster Street series. I freaking love this. I read this as part of my Carnival Fair Freak Show Clown readathon. This takes place, as you may be able to guess from the title, at a carnival, because the title is Carnival. And I love this. We were following two brothers, and the older brother is a little annoyed with the younger brother. The younger brother kind of gets mixed up in something he can't get out of, and the older brother has to try to solve this, how to get his brother out of this, and it's fantastic. fantastic, it's charming, it's cute, it's sweet, it's also spooky. So it's got all the vibes. I love this book, and I love the cover, by the way. Wonderful, wonderful setting as well. So this has it all, and that's why it wins for Best Middle Grade Read that I read in 2022. Now we come to the category that is the Best Vintage Kids Book. So this is all about vintage books, and this is non-Goosebumps reads. So the nominees are The Tale of the Deadly Diary, which is a Are You Afraid of the Dark book. The Tale of the Terrible Toys, also an Are You Afraid of the Dark book as well. And finally, The Mysterious Matter of I Am Fine. And the winner is The Mysterious Matter of I Am Fine. It's kind of a spoof on R.L. Stine. We've got these kids, they're noticing that all kinds of kids their age are getting affected after reading the new I Am Fine book. It's an author, I Am Fine. And so they're thinking that something is amiss with this author's work. Why are kids getting affected after reading her books? And it's a really fun time, really a nice little wink wink nod nod to R.L. Stine. And just a quick, fun, easy middle grade read. The next categories do not have any nominees. These are just some awards that I want to give out because I really enjoyed some of these books, and there's no other books that kind of came close to winning these categories. So let's quickly go through these. The Best Goosebumps Read of the Year. That would be The Haunted Mask, of course. I only read 2 Goosebumps this year, so there wasn't much competition. But The Haunted Mask, it's one of the best Goosebumps that I've read thus far. Fantastic, perfect Halloween-themed read. Next up, Best Halloween-themed read. I did not read The Haunted Mask during Halloween, so I'm not putting that for Halloween-themed read. I'm only talking about adult books here, and the winner for this is Usher is Passing by Robert McCammon. Definitely got a Halloween fall vibe, more fall, but look at the cover. It's appropriate for fall time. This is fantastic. The audiobook is killer as well. Yes, it had to win. Best Christmas-themed read. Krampus has taken home another award because this was a fantastic, marvelous, amazing Christmas read. Return of the Living Elves. It was close, but nothing really stands up to Krampus. So Krampus! Best Story Collection I read in 2022. This easily goes to Greetings from Moon Hill by Anthony J. Rapino. Love this collection. Much like the wonderful collection Autumn Crow by Cameron Chaney, all of these short stories connect together and all take place in the town of Moon Hill, which is kind of a spooky Halloween town to where it's always fall there. It seems like it's always fall there. I really liked how the stories connected together and how there seemed to be a common thread tying everything in a nice little bow. Very fun, super thematic. Loved reading this during Halloween time, for sure. Now let's give an award to a subgenre. My favorite horror fiction subgenre in 2021 was Animal Attack. And the choices this year, Animal Attack, Coming of Age, or folk horror. But I gotta go with coming of age horror was my favorite subgenre of 2022 because I read so much great coming of age horror that I was blown away. And just coming of age books in general because Boy's Life isn't really horror, but that is coming of age. And it was fantastic. It was marvelous. The book that made the biggest impact on my life, speaking of Boy's Life, is it any surprise that that book made the biggest impact because it helped me discover that Robert McCammon is my true favorite author and that I finally found a favorite book of all time. So when someone asks you, what is your favorite book? There's no hemming and hawing. I can easily, hands down, say Boy's Life. Alright guys, this is a little precursor to my top 10 of 2022. Again, not all of these books will even make it to the list. They won't even be close to making the list. However, I wanted to highlight books with certain strengths that may not be in my top 10, but are still worth reading. And I will do, after the top 10 is released, a standout reads video where I talk about some of these 4-star reads, 4.5-star reads, and other 5-star reads that did not make the cut for the top 10, or might not have even been mentioned here during this award ceremony. But guys, thanks for hanging with me for this very long award ceremony. Yes, this concludes another successful year of the Kelsi Choice Awards. It is technically the second year, but last year I did call it the Book Awards. So this year it's the Kelsi's Choice Awards, kind of like a spoof on the Kids' Choice Awards. No sliming here, but if you want to see some slime, let's cut to the slime! Alright guys, I'm not sliming myself in my nice dress for you, but I just do want to thank you one more time for hanging with me. What were some of your favorite reads of the year? Which books would you choose as winners for some of these categories that I talked about today? Let me know in the comments below. I'm dying to know. Alright guys, but for this time, that is it for me. Till next time, You guys know what you can do. Keep on killing it. Bye, guys.